Very good morning to all of you. So today, total 4 topic, but all are very small. So last topic, demand and recovery, is slightly having the more content that we will discuss in detail. First chapter is job work. So what is a job work? Job work means, is it a supply of the goods or supply of service? We all know that job work means doing some treatment or process on another person goods. That is the job work. Is it right? Let's see the definition. Job work means the activity or treatment or process on goods belonging to another registered person. See, important point is the other person should be registered, then only my work will be called as a job work. Otherwise, what happen? Otherwise, it is a simple supply of the service, but it is not job work. Why it is not job work? Because when we will read section 143 in detail, we would be able to understand that the various responsibility has been casted on the principal, like delivery challan, preparation of e-way bill, responsible for books of accounts. Therefore, in the job work chapter, they are saying it should be registered person. ठीक. Now, principal can send the goods to the job worker without payment of tax. So we all know that if I'm a principal, let's say you are job worker. So I am sending the goods to Mr. A. Mr. A is a job worker. So I am the principal and I'm sending the goods to Mr. A. Mr. A is a job worker. So I can send the goods without payment of tax. On the basis of the delivery challan, a registered person is allowed to send the input or capital goods without the payment of tax. Can you please tell me that what is the time limit that input should come back or capital goods should come back? There is a defined time limit. It should come back within that period. If it is an input, then it should come back within a period of 1 year. And if it is a capital goods, then it should come back within a period of 3 years. And this time limit can be extended with the prior permission of commissioner. That we will discuss. So he can send the input or capital goods without payment of tax, and from there to the another job worker, and after completion of the job worker bring back the goods without payment of tax, or remove the proceed goods from the job worker premises for supply to the customer. Now, can he remove the goods from the job worker premises? That we will discuss. There is some, I can say, requirement or condition that you cannot send the goods, you cannot sell the goods from the job worker premises unless and until some condition are satisfied. Such goods need to be removed under intimation to the proper officer. So under intimation to the proper officer means, under intimation to the proper officer means it means whenever you are sending, you need to give the intimation. Will it be hard copy? Will it be mail communication? How it will be? The same will be through one form that is called ITC04. In the initial years of GST, it was quarterly, and later on, for the small taxpayer having turnover up to 5 crore, they made yearly, and for other it is 6 monthly. But that ITC04 is nothing but the intimation to the proper officer. The principal is not required to reverse the ITC availed on input or capital goods dispatched to the job worker without payment of tax. The principal can also send input or capital goods directly to the job worker without bringing them into his premises. And still he can avail the ITC on such input or capital goods. However, input or capital goods sent to the job worker are required to be returned to the principal within a period of 1 year or 3 years. Within a period of 1 year or 3 years from the date of sending such goods to the job worker. This period can be further extended by 1 more year and 2 more years respectively. It means the total time limit including extended will be 2 years for the input and 5 years for the capital goods. The provision of returning the goods is not applicable in case of these goods, dies, jigs, fixtures, tools, which are consumed in the process of job worker. Therefore, they are saying it is not required to be returned. After processing the goods, the job worker may clear or dispatch the goods under the instruction of the principal to the another job worker, any of the place of the business of the principal, and the ultimate customer against payment of tax. Who will pay the tax? Principal. Supply the goods directly from job worker premises, place of business. The facility to supply the goods by the principal to third party directly from the premises of the job worker on the payment of tax in India may be allowed by principal, but what is this? There is an additional condition that either the job worker should be registered person, or if he is unregistered, then his place of business is being declared in the additional place of business of principal. So there are two conditions. It should be either registered person or he should declare, and third, it could be that supply of the notified goods. If there is any notification in this regard, then that good can be supplied. Okay. In such case of the direct supply, the supply of the goods will be regarded as supply by the principal, and not by the job worker. Resultantly, it is clarified that time of supply, value of the supply, and place of the supply would have to be determined in the hand of the principal, irrespective of job worker location. Invoices to be issued by the principal in case of export directly from the job worker place, LUT or bond shall be executed by the principal. These principles would apply in case of the waste and scrap during the job worker. Procedure for sending the goods to the job worker. Before supplying the goods to the job worker, the principal would be required to send intimation. The said intimation shall also contain the details of other job worker, if any. The input or capital goods shall be sent to the job worker under the cover of the delivery challan issued by the principal. The delivery challan shall be issued even for the input or capital goods. if you are not received, suppose I am a principal and I am not receiving at my premises the input or capital goods directly, I am arranging from my main supplier to the job worker. In that case also, I need to prepare the delivery challan so that I can give the intimation through ITC04 to the department. The delivery challan shall contain the specified detail along with the delivery challan. E-way bill shall be issued. ठीक है. Responsibility for keeping the accounts will be the principal. If the goods were not received within the stipulated time period, then it will be considered as deemed supply. If the input or capital goods are not received back or not supplied from the premises within the period of 1 year, input, and 3 years, capital goods, or extended time period 1 plus 2, it shall be deemed to be the supply from the principal to the job worker. And this is very, very important. Will it be treated the supply on the expiry of the time period or the time or the day when we have sent the goods? The answer is it shall be deemed to be a supply from the day when it was sent to job work. So 1 year or 3 year or extended time period, you need to pay the interest. Accordingly, the principal would be liable to pay the tax along with interest. So, goods sent for job worker acquire the character of the supply when the input or capital goods was sent to the job worker are neither received back by the principal nor supplied further by the principal from the business or premises of job worker within 1 year or 3 year or extended time period. It may be noted that responsibility for sending the goods in accordance with the prescribed procedure as well as bringing them back or supplying them has been casted on the principal. So date of the supply we have discussed. If such goods are returned by the job worker after the stipulated time period, same would be treated as supply by the job worker to the principal, and job worker would be liable to pay the GST as if he is liable for registration in accordance with provision of CGST Act. What is the threshold limit for goods and what is the threshold limit for services to take the registration? गुड्स में और सर्विस में थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट कितनी है फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन? any input from your side? Now waiting for your answer, then we'll give the reply. Further, it may be reiterated that no requirement of either returning back or supply the goods as far as it is concerned the molded fixtures. For the purpose of the job worker, input includes intermediate goods arising from any treatment of the process carried on the inputs by the principal or by the job worker. 40 in case of goods, 20 in case of services, and 10 lakh in case of a special characteristic. Thank you so much. Now we are talking about section 19. What is the section 19? Regarding the ITC for input and capital goods which has been sent for job worker. Now it says that principal shall, subject to condition and restriction as may be prescribed, be allowed to take ITC on input sent to a job worker for job worker. So I would be entitled to take ITC, notwithstanding anything contained in 16(2)(b). Can anybody tell me what is the 16(2)(b)? क्या आप मुझे बता सकते हो क्या था 16 subsection 2 clause B? Can you recall and tell me what is the condition for taking the ITC in the clause B? we know there are few conditions in the 16 subsection 2, like invoice should appear in the GSTR to be, there should be tax invoice. तो clause B का क्या requirement था? What was the requirement of the clause B? Very right, Geeta. The goods which we are talking about or the service which we are talking about has been received. Now they are saying, okay, I hope you are clear what is the meaning of the word notwithstanding anything contained. It means it will ignore that provision. It will ignore that provision, notwithstanding anything contained in 16 to be the principal shall be entitled to take ITC even if the input are directly sent to a job worker for job worker without being first brought to his place of business. The principal shall be entitled to take the credit of input tax on input even if the input are directly sent to a job worker for job worker without being first brought to his place of business. So therefore, we are saying that even if you are sending the goods, so even if I'm a principal, I am receiving the goods from at my premises, then I'm sending the goods to my customer. No, to my job worker. I am one way. Second way that I can directly send from supply to the job worker premises. In that case, will I be able to take ITC because 16 to be say that the goods or services should be received. But again, the 19 subsection 2 says that notwithstanding anything contained in the clause B. So they are ignoring the clause B, in which case, if goods were sent directly from the supply to the job worker premises without being received by the principal shall be entitled to take the credit of input or input even if the inputs are directly sent to the job worker without being first brought to his place of business. When the inputs sent for job worker are not received back, okay, within the period of 1 year, then it shall be deemed that such input has been supplied by the principal to the job worker on the day when the input was sent. सिर्फ ये लाइन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ऑन द डे व्हेन द इनपुट वर सेंट, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि जो 1 year या 3 year और एक्सटेंडेड टाइम पीरियड 1+2 दैट विल बी फॉल फॉर लाइबिलिटी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. मतलब उसका आपको इंटरेस्ट पे करना पड़ेगा यू बीइंग ए प्रिंसिपल अगर आप है. हाँ, एंड इंपॉर्टेंट, अगर इनपुट डायरेक्टली सेंट हुआ है तो कौन सा डे को हम मानेंगे? द पीरियड ऑफ 1 year शैल बी काउंटेड फ्रॉम विच डेट? द डेट ऑफ द रिसीट ऑफ द इनपुट बाय जॉब वर्कर. Same for capital goods, same for capital goods, and same for capital goods. Notwithstanding any contained in 3 and 6 shall apply to the mold die, jigs, fixtures, tools. तो इसके लिए जो ऊपर वाली जो टाइम लिमिट है 1 year या 3 year की डीम्ड सप्लाई की, वो एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगी. अब बात करते हैं रूल 45 की. ITC, condition and restriction in respect of the input and capital goods sent to the job worker. ठीक है. सबसे पहले shall be sent under the cover of the delivery चालान. पहला रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है रूल 45 का? It should be under the cover of the delivery चालान. Delivery challan would be required issued by the principal, including when the goods are directly sent to the job worker. उस केस में भी आपको प्रिपेयर करना है, प्रिंसिपल को प्रिपेयर करना है. And when the goods are sent from one job worker to another job worker, the challan may be issued either by the principal or by job worker. सिर्फ इतना ध्यान रखना, ये वाला जो लेग है, ये वाला जो लेग है जॉब वर्कर टू द अनदर जॉब वर्कर, this lag was required to be reported in the ITC 04 intimation to the principal officer, but अब इस lag को हटा दिया है. It means when the principal is sending the goods to the job worker and ultimately the job worker is sending back to the principal that will be reported in the ITC4 one intermediary lag का मतलब क्या हुआ, जहां पर प्रिंसिपल जॉब वर्कर को भेजता है, जॉब वर्कर अनदर जॉब वर्कर को भेजता है, ये वाला लैग को खत्म कर दिया, नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू बी रिपोर्टेड। हाँ, challan issued by the principal may be endorsed by the job worker, indicating there in the quantity and description when the goods are sent to the one job worker to the and by the one job worker to the another job worker, or it is returned to the principal। मतलब endorsement वाला concept है, instead of preparing the new delivery challan। Provided further that the challan endorsed by the job worker may be further endorsed by the another job worker, indicating quantity etc। इसके रिगार्ड में एक सर्कुलर है, giving the clarity about the documentation which we will discuss। The challan issued by the principal to the job worker, डिलीवरी चलान के कंटेंट की अगर बात करूं, it is given in the rule 55। Then form which we need to submit as an intimation, that is the ITC 04। The details of the challan in respect to the goods dispatched to the job worker or received from a job worker during the specified shall be included in the ITC 4 and to be furnished on or before 25th day of the month succeeding the said period or within such further period as may be extended। Now this said period has been defined। What is the meaning of said specified period? ये स्पेसिफाइड पीरियड को डिफाइन कर दिया, इसको दो पार्ट में डिवाइड किया। अगर आपकी टर्नओवर, विच टर्नओवर, एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर, एनुअल एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर अगर एक्सीड करती है 5 करोड़, देन योर स्पेसिफाइड पीरियड वुड बी 6 मंथ। देन कैन यू प्लीज टेल मी, इफ माय टर्नओवर इज मोर देन 5 करोड़, by which date I need to file ITC 04। अगर मेरी टर्नओवर एक्सीड करती है मोर देन 5 करोड़, देन मुझे कितनी बार ITC 4 फाइल करना पड़ेगा एक ईयर में, और उसकी ड्यू डेट क्या होगी? कैन यू प्लीज टेल मी द ड्यू डेट ऑफ द ITC 4, ड्यू डेट ऑफ द ITC 04 एंड कितनी बार फाइल करना पड़ेगा अगर मेरी टर्नओवर एक्सीड करती है 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा? इट विल बी, एंड सेम अगर मेरी एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर अप टू 5 करोड़ है, then what would be the frequency and what would be the due date? Right, Geeta? It is 2 times। Can you please also tell me the due date for these two ITC4? So first 6 month, let's say April to September, उसका due date 25 October, and then October to March, उसका due date 25 April। Absolutely correct। And if my turnover is up to 5 crore, then I need to file one ITC4। And what will be the due date? That would be yearly, and I can say that 25th April, 25th April, absolutely correct। 25th April would be the due date। And if the input or capital goods are not received back within the stipulated time period, then it has to be reported in the GST-R1 and along with interest। The expression capital goods shall include plant and machinery as defined in section 17। Also, it says that in calculation of exempt supply, the value of the land shall be taken as 1%. Value of the land shall be taken as 1%, and value of the security shall be taken as 1% of the value of the security shall be taken as 1% of the sales value of that security। ठीक है, so major part is done। Let me see if something is being left, then we will discuss that one also। So that we have discussed. You have given the correct answer. Requirement to generate the e-way bill, that is also okay. A registration requirement. So was that delivery challan? No, 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 no. Huh. So content of the delivery challan, just you read the content. Otherwise, you know also delivery challan should contain the detail specified in the rule 55. What is that? Date and number of the delivery challan, name, address, and GSTIN of the consigner and consignee, HSN code, and description of the goods. Can you please tell me the requirement of HSN code with respect to turnover? HSN code की requirement क्या है turnover के base पर? There is some relaxation, there is some 2-digit or 4-digit or 6-digit, I don't know. You please tell me what is the requirement to report the HSN code based on turnover. क्या बात है, everything you know है गीता. Very nice, very nice. So B2B mandatory, and can you also link with the annual aggregate turnover? First requirement you have told correct. Second requirement you have told correct with respect to number of the digit. First is applicable to whom? First is applicable to whom to complete that statement? If my annual aggregate turnover does not exceed rupees 5 crore, then B2B is mandatory and number of the digit would be 4. And if my turnover exceed 5 crore, then B2B and B2C both mandatory and the number of the digit would be 6. Delivery challan would be prepared in triplicate. 2 copy of the challan may be sent to the job worker along with the goods. When goods may move under the cover, the delivery challan issued by the principal. Alternatively, with the delivery challan may be endorsed by the job worker sending the goods. When the goods are returned by the principal. When the goods are returned in the piecemeal by job worker, in case the goods after carrying out the job worker are sent in piecemeal quantity, the challan issued originally by the principal cannot be endorsed. Therefore, the fresh delivery challan is required to be issued by the job worker. Submission of the intimation we have discussed. Requirement to generate the e-way bill. Can you please tell me, in this case, when we are sending the goods from the principal to the job worker, what is the threshold applicable for generating the e-way bill? What is the threshold applicable for generating the e-way bill? So my question is, let me repeat my question. I am principal, I'm sending the goods to my job worker. If it is interstate, then it is mandatory. And if it is within the state, then it is not mandatory. The relevant applicability of Rule 138, that is normally 50,000 would be applicable. But again, intrastate, we have to see the respective state rules, so that is not being discussed. Normally क्या होता है? See it for your practically. Within the state movement, it can be within the state movement can be changed, can be relaxed, can be tightened by the respective state also. Example, if I'll talk about Bihar. So Bihar state government has initially the requirement of e-way bill has been made for 2 lakhs. मतलब अगर आपका 2 लाख तक का माल है, 2 लाख की वैल्यू ऑफ द गुड्स है, in that case you are not required to prepare the e-way bill. Later on it has been reduced to 1 lakh. So what I'm saying, Gujarat is saying that there is no requirement of e-way bill for job worker. So within the state ka movement depend upon the state rule. If there is no specific relaxation, then normal limit would be applicable, 50,000. And if it is an interstate movement, then as correctly highlighted by Geeta, that it is mandatory to generate the e-way bill, irrespective of value of the consignment. When principal is located in one state and job work is located in any other state. Last part, registration requirement. Normally, the registration requirement is 20 lakh or 10 lakh because job work is a service. Correct. So, the registration requirement when the job worker is located in a state different from the principal. So, if it is an interstate supply of the service, I am located in Delhi and my job worker is located in Noida, UP, then is it mandatory to take the registration by the job worker? Is it mandatory to take the registration by the job worker? Or he can do the interstate supply also? Absolutely correct. This was the first relaxation that job worker can do the job work and he can make the supply interstate also. 10 by 2017. So therefore, it is clarified that job worker being a supplier of the service is required to be obtained registration only case when his aggregate turnover to be computed on all India basis in a financial year exceed the threshold limit, whether it is an intrastate supply or interstate doesn't matter. Value of the goods after completion of job worker supplied directly from the premises of the registered job worker not to be included in the aggregate turnover. That has been clearly written in the definition. The principal can supply the goods directly from the job worker premises without bringing back to his own premises. There are the 3 points which we have discussed. एक जॉब वर्कर के प्लेस से मैं डायरेक्टली सप्लाई कर सकता हूं टू माय कस्टमर इफ job worker is see I can make the supply directly from the premises of the job worker if the job worker is registered. If he is not registered, then I am adding his place in my additional place of business, or there is a notified goods. Correct. Supply the waste and scrap. Rule 140, section 143 subsection 5 says that any waste and scrap generated during the job worker may be supplied by the job worker directly from his place of business on payment of tax if such goods is registered, or by the principal if the job worker is not registered. Okay. So by this we have completed our this chapter, job worker. Now let's move to the another chapter. So like this, we have the 3 small chapter, and then we will do in last the chapter of demand and recovery. Okay. Assessment and audit. What is the meaning of assessment? Assessment means determination of tax liability, includes self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, summary assessment, and best judgment assessment. Audit means examination of the records, returns, and other document maintained or furnished by the registered person under this act or the rules made thereunder for the time being enforced to verify the correctness of the turnover, declared taxes, paid, refund, etc. ठीक है. First assessment is called self-assessment. Means every registered person will himself assess the tax payable. by him for a period, and after such assessment, he shall file the returns required under Section 39. The provisional assessment, Section 60. The provisional assessment is a method of determining the tax liability in case the taxable person is unable to determine the value. The two reasons for doing the provisional assessment: assume that I am registered taxpayer. I will request to the officer that I am unable to do any of these two things. You please do my assessment and tell me what is the value and what is the rate. Normally, assessment is being done by the department. But in the assessment chapter, the first is self-assessment, second is provisional assessment, will be initiated by the taxpayer. Self-assessment तो खुद का 3B फाइल करना है. And provisional assessment में क्या होगा? Provisional assessment में it will be requested to the department that I am unable to do these things. What is these two things? One is value and one is rate. There might be the situation when these two determinant might not be readily possible, may be subject to the outcome that require determination and deliberation in time. So he may furnish an application in the prescribed form stating reason for the payment of the tax on a provisional basis along with document in support of his request electronically through the common portal, either directly or through a facilitation center notified by the commissioner. The officer may, on the receipt of the application, issue a notice in the prescribed form requiring the registered person to furnish additional information on the document in support of his request, and the applicant shall file a reply and may appear in person before the said officer if he so desire. The officer shall issue an order within the period not later than 90 days from the date of the receipt of such request. मैं रिपीट करता हूं. ऑफिसर क्या करेंगे? I have requested to the officer. Then officer will issue the notice to me for what? For additional document. Why he need the additional document? So that he can do the scrutiny. He can do the matlab ki determination. Shall file a reply to the notice, and if he require, he may appear. The officer shall issue an order within the period of not more than 90 days, allowing the payment of tax on provisional basis. Please note, whatever he is issuing the order, that is provisional assessment. It means the amount that he has indicated that are subject to change. It can be changed also. So he's saying that whatever the amount we are quoting, that is provisional. The value or the rate and the amount for which then he will say that please execute the bond and security. Why? That if in case final assessment lead to the higher value or higher rate of the tax, it means whatever the tax you have paid on provisional is less, and whatever the final assessment is much higher, then differential can be taken through bond or security. Furnish of the bond and security, the payment of the tax on provisional basis may be allowed if the taxable person execute the bond in the prescribed form along with the security. The bond is a document whereby the taxpayer bind himself to pay the differential tax, if any, payable on finalization of the provisional assessment. Now we are talking about finalization of provisional assessment. मतलब प्रोविजनल असेसमेंट अपने आप में कंप्लीट नहीं है. सेक्शन 60 जो भी प्रोविजनली असेस हुआ केस, उसका फाइनल असेसमेंट भी होगा. The security is required to be furnished in the form of the bank guarantee, subject to the 25% of the amount covered under the bond, in order to save a taxpayer from the requirement of submitting the separate bond for different tax. The law provides that the bond furnished to the officer under the CSI shall be deemed to be the bond furnished under the provision of other act and the rules made therein. Now we are talking about finalization of provisional assessment. The final assessment order has to be passed within a period of 6 months from the date of communication of the order of the provisional assessment. However, on sufficient cause being shown, the reason to be recorded in writing, the above 6 months may be extended for further period not exceeding 6 months. So total 6 plus 6 will be 1 year. This 1 year, 6 more months can be extended by the Joint Commissioner or Litigation Commissioner. And if the Commissioner gives the permission, it can be extended to the 4 more year. For finalization of the assessment, officer shall issue the notice in the prescribed form calling for such information record as may be required. That is okay. Where the tax liability as per the final assessment is greater than provisional assessment, then he is required to liable to pay interest also. The tax become due consequent to the order of the final assessment. The registered person, in addition to the differential tax payable, he shall be liable to pay the interest at the rate of 12 or 18. What is the rate of the interest? What is the rate of interest? Is it 12 or 18? Is it 12 or 18 under section 50 subsection 1? The answer is 12. Answer is 12. C. There is a two section, 50 subsection 1 and 50 subsection 3. 50 subsection 1 talking about the interest on tax liability. That was 12% since beginning. There is no change. The change in the 50 subsection 3, it means the rate of the tax on ITC. That is initial 18% and later on it has been amended retrospectively as 12%. So now I can say whether it is reversal of ITC or whether it is liability to pay the tax. In both cases, the rate of the interest is 12%. Okay. When the tax liability as per the final assessment is less, so he need to pay the tax or he need to take the refund. अगर tax liability less आती है in the final assessment compared to the provisional assessment, then he will pay the additional tax or he will take the refund. Obviously, correct. He will take the refund now because he has already paid the higher tax. So it says that this tax become refundable as per the final assessment order. He will be liable to take the refund along with interest as per the section 50 subsection 3. If any period exceeding 60 days, now see, exceeding 60 days from the date of the receipt of the application moved in accordance with 54 subsection 1. Now they are saying you will get the interest for which period? When you move the application, it means when I file the RFD 01 and then you are giving the refund, officer are giving the refund. If it is more than 60 days, then I will get the interest. And what about if it is a lesser payment of the tax? They will take the interest from the initial days. Release of security, the applicant may file an application for release of the security furnished after issue of the final assessment order. The officer shall release the security after ensuring that applicant has paid the amount specified in the final assessment order and issue an order within a period of 7 working days from the date of the receipt of the application. Okay. Now, third is scrutiny of return, that is section 61. Very, very important because in the day-to-day, in your practical life also, you will see this assessment very frequently. That is ASMT 10. Have you seen ASMT 10 for any client? Have you seen ASMT 10 for any client? What is that? That is nothing but the scrutiny of return under section 61. Scrutiny of return under section 61, what is that? Whatever the return that you have furnished and the details available on the portal, they will scrutinize the same, and in case of any differences, they will issue the notice for giving the clarification or for giving the details. It could be, can you give me any one or two example for till Jan exam? It is 18. Which Jan 2026 you are saying? No. Where you can say? How you can say? How you can say? How you can say that it is like 18%? Today is the last class from my side. So meanwhile, if you can provide that particular screenshot or something like that, then it help me. ठीक है ना, मुझे दीजिएगा ना आप एक बार. Fine. Verifying the correctness of the return furnished by the registered person may be selected for scrutiny of the return by the proper officer to verify the correctness. Where any return furnished by a registered person is selected for scrutiny, the officer shall scrutinize the same with reference to the information available. Issue of notice. In case any discrepancy is found during the scrutiny, officer shall issue the notice him informing him the discrepancy and seeking the explanation not exceeding 30 days from the date of the service of the notice or such further period as may be permitted. Reply to the notice. A registered person to whom the notice is issued within a period of 30 days from the date of the service of the notice may accept the discrepancy as mentioned in the notice and pay the tax, interest, or any other amount arising from the discrepancy and informing the same. Further, an explanation for the discrepancy to the officer regarding non-acceptance of the discrepancy. Action by the proper officer where the explanation furnished by the registered person or information submitted is found to be acceptable, the officer shall inform him accordingly. No further action taken in this regard. अगर satisfactory explanation नहीं मिलता है, in that case, the officer has the power to do anything out of the four. First, he can initiate the audit under section 65 that we will discuss now. Second, direct the conduct of the special audit under section 66 or inspection search seizure 67 or initiate the proceeding for determination of the tax other due 73, 74, 74A. All the 4 points will be discussed in the today class only. Okay. Now, in case of the assessment of non-filer of the return, this is best judgment assessment. So what is this case? If the taxpayer does not file the return, which return? Section 39, or even the final return, a notice under section 46 has been issued by the officer to defaulting taxable person requiring him to furnish the return within a period of 15 days and taxable person failed to file the return within the given time. So they will issue the notice and notice will be under section 46 for defaulter. And once he receives the notice, he has to file the return within a period of 15 days. Time limit. The time limit to do the best judgment shall be within a period of 5 years from the date specified in section 44. Meaning thereby, the officer has to do the proper officer has to do the assessment within a period of 5 years from the furnishing of annual return for the year for which tax not paid. Can you please tell me what is the normally what is the due date for annual return? Normal क्या due date होता है annual return का? It is 31st December after the end of the financial year. And if the taxpayer furnish the valid return, then the order will be deemed to be withdrawn, meaning thereby there is no requirement to visit the department. There is no requirement to furnish any reply. It will be deemed to be withdrawn. However, when the registered person failed to furnish the valid return, he may furnish the same within a period of 60 days on payment of additional fees of 100 rupees for each day beyond 60 days. Just allow me 1 minute. Sorry, we'll continue. So they are saying that first 60 days without any fee. I'm not talking about late fee. See, please differentiate. Key, if you do not furnish the return within time, then you need to pay the late fee. That is like some cases up maximum 500 in case of nil. Here you are required to pay the additional fee. Just quick 1 minute. So normally you will pay the late fees, like it is 20 rupees per day, 50 rupees per day, or 500 rupees or something like that. There are alag alag upper cap and etc. per day. We are not talking about that. After issuing the order, you have to pay within you have to file within 60 days without any fee, not late fee. And 60 more days with additional fee. This is an additional fee over and above the late fee. Guideline to ensure the uniformity in the implementing of the provisional law in relation to. So there was a circular is being issued to clarify that how the process would be adopted. They are saying first system generated mail or message would be sent 3 days in advance. And once the due date is over and that still the return is not filed, they will again send the defaulter mail and message to all the stakeholder. After 5 days, notice will be issued in the section 46, requiring him to file the return within 15 days. If the return is filed within 15 days, no problem, deemed to be withdrawn. If the valid return is not filed within 50 days, 15 days, then section 62 will be initiated to the best of his judgment, taking into account all the relevant material which has been gathered and would issue the assessment order. Then for the purpose of the assessment of tax liability, the proper officer may take into account the GSTR1, GSTR2A, GSTR2B, e-way bill, and Section 71 inspection. Again, the valid return is filed within 60 days from the assessment order. The said assessment shall be withdrawn, and if the again वो additional कर सकता है, and अगर वो withdraw नहीं होता, then recovery may be initiated in the 78, 79. I hope it is clear. Let's take a small break of 10 minutes and then we will resume and start the section 63. अशोक जी एक 10 मिनट का ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए. assessment of unregistered person under section 63. What is that? It is again BJA, best judgment assessment. So here they will take the assessment of those persons who were failed to obtain the registration, but it is beyond threshold limit that we have discussed. Or he has taken the registration, subsequently he has cancelled his registration. Namely, a registered person is contravening the provision. A person paying the tax under composition has not furnished the return for a financial year beyond 3 months from the due date, or any registered person other than the person in clause B has not furnished the return for such continuous period as may be prescribed. The person who is taken the voluntary registration has not commenced the business within 6 months. The registration has been obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatement, etc. Issue of the notice. Before making the assessment, the officer shall issue the notice to the taxable person containing the ground on which assessment is proposed to be made on best judgment basis, and also serve the summary thereof electronically. The taxable person shall be given 15 days time to furnish his reply. Okay. Thereafter, an order shall be passed and shall be uploaded electronically. What is the time limit? Same time limit, 5 years. Okay. Now, next is section 64. That is nothing but the fast track assessment. Why it is called as a fast track assessment? Because the department feel that if they will not do the assessment on the fast track basis, there will be the loss of revenue to the government. So when the officer has evidence that taxable person has incurred the liability and sufficient ground to believe that delay in passing the assessment may adversely affect the interest of the revenue, might be like he can escape India, he can leave India, and then recovery would be comparatively more tough. Withdrawal of the assessment. The summary assessment order may be withdrawn by additional commissioner or joint commissioner on an application filed by the taxable person for withdrawal of the summary assessment within 30 days from the date of the receipt, or on his own motion where he filed such order to be erroneous and may be instead following the procedure laid down in 73, 74, 74A. Deemed taxable person in case of the supply of the goods where the taxable person to whom the liability pertain is not ascertainable, and such liability pertain to the supply of the goods, the person in charge of the such goods shall be deemed to be the taxable person liable to be assessed and the liable to pay the tax and any other due under this section. When the evade tax, that is okay. Audit. Now we are moving to the audit. Audit, there are the 3 audit I can say. One audit was in the section 35, that is by the practicing chartered accountant or cost accountant, that is being done away. Second is the special is audit by the tax authority, section 65. And third is the special audit under section 66. Audit of any registered person may be undertaken by the commissioner or by any officer authorized by him by way of the general or special order. Audit may be carried out at the place of the business. The period of the audit could be a financial year or part thereof. Okay. The commissioner or any officer authorized by him by way of the general or special order may undertake the audit of any registered person even for a part of the financial year or multiple financial year. Where it is decided to undertake the audit of a registered person, the officer may issue the notice not less than 15 working days prior to conduct the audit. What is meant by commencement of audit? Very, very problematic term. The commencement means the date on which the record called by the officer are made available to him. Now, till the time the records called by the officer is not submitted by taxpayer, it is not said that the audit has been commenced. And commencement is important because then only the time limit can be decided. Is important because the audit has to be completed within a given time frame. So it will be the letter of the following: the date on which the records are made available, the actual institution of audit at the place of the business of the taxpayer, whichever is later. Time limit is normally 3 months from the date of the commencement, and it can be extended for a further period of a maximum of 6 months. Okay. How to conduct the audit? Officer authorized to conduct the audit will books of accounts of the registered official with the assistance of the team. Either he will come to the place of business of the taxpayer, or he may ask the record at his office only. Okay. Document are maintained and the return and statement are furnished. The correctness of the turnover, exemption, deduction, rate of the tax applied in respect of the supply, the ITC, availed and utilized returns, refund claimed, any other limitation. During the course of audit, the officer may require the registered person to facilitate the verification of the accounts records are available by the authorities, to provide such information as the authority may require for the conduct of audit, and render assistance for timely completion of audit. Finalization of audit, the officer may inform the registered person, if any, as observation of the audit, and said person may file his reply. Then officer shall finalize the finding of the audit after due consideration of the reply furnished by the registered person to the audit observation. On conclusion of the audit, the officer shall within 30 days inform the registered person whose records are audited about the audit finding and the reason of such finding. The officer shall also inform the person his right and obligation against such observation. Then audit result in the detection of the tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, then process will be initiated in the 73, 74, 74 day. Practical point for reference, unlike direct tax, in the GST, there is a separate assessment order is not passed by the tax authority for each year. In the GST, the tax authority may conduct audit of a taxpayer. At the end of the audit, the authorities are required to communicate the finding. Then special audit. We will do the special audit. That I can say again, it is a big opportunity for the practicing chartered accountant or cost accountant. Why I am saying so? Because special audit is being conducted by the CA only. So when for that purpose, the government are appointing the chartered accountant or cost accountant. For the carrying out the special audit, they are issuing the nomination, etc. And then you need to furnish. What is that? If at any stage of scrutiny, inquiry, investigation, any officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner, having regard to the nature and the complexity, is of the opinion that value has not been correctly declared and credit is not within the normal limit, he may, with the prior approval of the commissioner, issue the direction to the registered person to get his record, including books of accounts, examined and audited by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, as the case may be notified by the commissioner. The provision of the special audit shall have effect even if the accounts of the registered person have been audited under any other provision of the CGST Act or any other law for the timing in force. The time limit is 90 days, and the 90 days can be further extended by maximum 90 more days on an application for any material and sufficient reason. Who will bear the expense of the audit? The expense of the audit will be, including remuneration of CA, shall be determined and paid by the commissioner, and it will be final. How the special audit report to be dealt with? A registered person given an opportunity in respect of any material gathered on the basis of special audit, which is proposed to be used in any proceeding. On conclusion of the special audit, the registered person shall be informed about the finding. And again, if it is tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, then he will given the opportunity, and the recovery would be not recovery. The determination would be started in 73, 74, 74A. That is all about special audit. So total three point we have covered: assessment, is audit by the officer, and the special audit. Okay. Now the second chapter is done. Now we are moving to the third chapter. What is the third chapter? That is inspection, search, and seizure. And then we have one more chapter, that is demand and recovery, which is very, very important. So again, it is a small chapter. We will be able to complete in short time. Inspection, search, and seizure. Power to inspection, section 67. the inspection enable the officer to access any place of the business of a taxable person. ठीक है? Who is owner or warehouse operator or godown operator? What is the circumstances? Circumstances for carrying out inspection. An inspection can be carried out only after joint commissioner or officer higher in the rank authorized to the proper officer. Such authorization is given by the JC or above rank. Reason to believe. What is the reason to believe? That taxable person has done one of the following. Either he has suppressed the transaction, suppressed the stock, claim ITC in excess and contravene the provision. Or any person engaged in transporting the goods, owner or operator of the warehouse or godown or any other place kept goods which escaped the payment of tax or has kept his accounts or records in a manner which is likely to cause evasion. Reason to believe. What is the meaning of reason to believe? See, reason to believe means having the knowledge of the fact which, although not amount to be the direct knowledge, would cause a reasonable person, knowing the same fact, reasonably conclude the same thing. That is the reason to believe. A person to have the reason to believe thinks if he has sufficient cause to believe that things but not otherwise, a reason to believe contemplate an objection determination based on intelligence care evaluation as distinguished from a purely subjective consideration. ठीक है, मतलब सिर्फ फीलिंग से काम नहीं चलेगा. इट मींस इफ यू फील दैट मिस्टर ए हैज escaped the payment of tax, has done the exercise, it is not reason to believe. This should be the ground by which you are concluding, officer are concluding that it is reason to believe. Example, that the ITC which was taken was not not appearing in the GST Act 2B, let's say. There is a one process that they can do the scrutiny of return also. See, correct. Or they feel that there is no person exists in the premises, but still the returns are being filed and there is no business activities carried on. And then they are saying that still the huge amount of the returns are filed with high tax liability, with high B2B transaction or export, etc. So that could be one more reason. What is the meaning of confiscation? They are taking the ownership of that goods. Okay. Or any document or books are secreted, are found, or any document or books are found which may be useful by the department, then they could search first, then seize the document, goods, and books. See, they are such goods. It means they computers, etc. And any document and any books. As per section 67, the search can be carried out. That is okay. Seizure has not been defined in the GST law. In the lexicon dictionary, seizure means act of physical custody of property by an officer under legal process. Okay. Confiscation of the goods. Section 130, goods become liable to be confiscation. Seizure means physical custody. Confiscation means ownership of that goods. Goods belongs to Mr. A. If the goods are seized by the department, still the ownership of that goods is belong to A only. But only physical movement, physical is being done, is being taken by the department. Physical custody. Now, if they will initiate the proceeding under section 130, that is confiscation, it means they will become the owner. So, section 130, goods become liable to be confiscated on when any person does the following: supply or received any goods in contravention of the provision of the act or the rules made thereunder with an intention to evade the payment of tax. Okay. Does not account for any goods which is liable to pay the tax, supply any goods without registration, contravene rules, provisions with an intention to evade the payment of tax. See, only contravention is not sufficient. For example, invoice has to be signed by the person who is issuing. But suppose the registered person has not signed a document, But does it mean that it is evading the payment of tax? Answer is no, because he has properly reported the same in GSTR1, discharged the liability in 3B, prepared the e-way bill. So there is no evasion of tax, only there was non-compliance of GST law. Use any conveyance as mean of transport for carrying the goods in contravention unless the owner of the conveyance prove that it was used without his knowledge. Sometimes the goods are being the conveyance are being given on the faith, and now without his knowledge is being used what for contravention. So in that case, the owner would be given the relaxation. Power of officer during search. An officer carrying out the search has the power to search and seize the goods and document books things relevant for any proceeding under this act from the premises searched. However, if it is not practicable to seize any goods, क्योंकि size काफी बड़ा है, in that case they will issue the INS 03. So there are various documents. I'm not going into the forms number. So they will issue that particular form that the goods are being seized and you will not move the goods without taking the prior permission from the department. The person from whom these are seized shall be entitled to take copies extract in the presence of authorized officer at a place and time indicated by the officer. Taking copy may be denied wherein in the opinion to the officer making such copies may prejudicially affect the investigation during search. The officer may have the power to break open the door, premises, etc. Similarly, while carrying out the search, he can break open the almirah or box, etc. Okay. Manner of release of confiscated goods or document. First, on provisional basis, on execution of bond and security, or a payment of applicable tax, interest, penalty. Actual return of goods. In case seizure of the goods, a notice has to be issued within 6 months. If no notice is issued within 6 months, then all such goods shall be returned. However, this period of 6 months can be extended by the officer for another 6 months on sufficient cause. Disposal. Government considering the perishable or hazardous in the nature, depreciation in the value with the passage of time, constant of the storage space, or for any other relevant consideration shall be disposed of in the prescribed manner. Procedure for conducting the search. To ensure that provision of search and seizure are implemented in the proper and transparent manner, the provision of the CRPC Criminal Procedure Code, Section 100 of the Code of Criminal Procedure for search would be followed. Basic requirement to be observed during such operation. No search of the premises should be carried out without the valid search warrant. Thereby should invariably by a lady officer accompanying the search team for a residence. The officer before starting the search should disclose their identity by showing their identity card to the person in charge of the premises. The search warrant should be executed before the start of the search by showing the same in charge of the premises and a signature should be taken on the body of the search warrant. In token of having seen the same, the signature should be signed by at least 2 witnesses. Search should be made in the presence of at least 2 independent witnesses from the locality. If no such inhabitant are available or willing, the inhabitant of any other capacity should be asked to witness to the search. Before the start of the search proceeding, team of the officer conducting the search and the accompanying witness should offer for their personal search to the person in charge of the premises being searched. Similarly, after the completion of the search, all the officer and the witness should again offer for their personal search. Panchnama or Majar of the proceeding of the search should necessarily be prepared on the spot. List of all goods document recovered seized should be prepared and annexed to the Panchnama. The Panchnama and the list of the goods detained invariably be signed by the witness. So ये process है जो कि Code of Criminal Procedure से लेंगे. Yes, Asthana. Miss Asthana, you would like to say something? You raise the hand.
Yes, sir. Can you please explain before Panchnama wala section once more? This one. Before the start of such proceedings. Why they will have to whom they will have to means before the start of such proceedings, the team of officers conducting the search of accompanying witness should offer for their personal search.
Okay.
Who will search them?
See, first,
No,
note
first,
this
second.
from here. Shall I start?
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So they are conducting the search of any premises because of any reason. So because they are involved in the fake transaction, or they are keeping the goods without being disclosed, or without being accounted for. So they will have the search warrant. Okay. Then, because if they are searching the premises which is residence of any taxpayer, then it has to be along with the lady officer. Then officer, before starting the search, will disclose the identity card to show that they are the correct person. Then to search warrant, the search warrant should be executed before the start of the search by showing the same to the person in charge of the premises. मान लो ये ऑफिसर ये किसी बिल्डिंग में जा रहे हैं, वो मिस्टर ए की बिल्डिंग है, देन इट हैज टू बी शोन टू दैट पर्सन एंड उसका सिग्नेचर लेना है ऑन सर्च वारंट. It is a confirmation that he has seen the search warrant and accepting the same, along with at least two witnesses. So why these process are being given? To ensure that search should not be coercive, such should not be as a force measure taken by the department. So it should be proper and transparent. Then two independent witness from the locality. So along with the signature of the two witness जो वहां पे है, so when they suppose they are going to the premises, then they will search the premises, take the signature, and along with two witness, and there is also the two independent witnesses. Personal search to the person in charge of the premises being searched. Similarly, after the completion, should again offer themselves for their personal search. So to ensure that nothing has been taken, means etc. Then whatever they are seizing, then Panchnama has to be prepared along with the list of the document, because on that basis you can go to the department, or you can file the appeal, or you can file the writ also, that this goods are belongs. So you can say something. So like for example, there is a one search in which they were staying at home for 3-4 days continuously and without being lady officer. That has been in that case the person has reached to the court, and again the violation of that particular provision of the code of criminal procedure. Then again one search has been there in which they are keeping the goods for so longer period. See, for example, Mr. A is doing the business and his goods is being seized and is not being released by any mode. He is ready to submit the bond, security, etc. But खाली premises lock करके चले गए. Now he will not be able to do the business. So it is a basic principle, constitutional right is being violated. So again he has reached to the court. So आपके पास पंचनामा होना बहुत जरूरी है, ठीक है, for the client for which you are going to the further proceeding. After the search is over, the search warrant duly executed should be written in original to the issuing officer with a report regarding the outcome of the search. The name of the officer who is participated in the search may also be written on the reverse of the search warrant. Issuing authority of the search warrant should maintain the register of search warrant issued and written and used search warrant should be kept in record. Copy of the Panchanama along with the annexure should be given to the person in charge owner of the premises being searched as an acknowledgement. Search warrant के content क्या होंगे? The violation under the act, the premises to be searched, name and designation of the person, the name of the issuing officer with full designation, date and place, serial number, period of validity. I hope it is clear now, no? Miss Astana.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See, now certain safeguards are provided in 67. Seized goods should not be retained beyond the period of their examination. Photocopy, but again, the photocopy of the document is discretionary power of the officer. If officer feel that if I will give the document, the respective person will prepare the fake books of accounts and he would ensure the entire process is valid of purchase, sale, every valid. So he might deny the same. For seized goods, if a notice is not issued within 6 months, what is the time period of 6 months? 6 months. What is the difference between seizure and confiscation? Ownership. Correct. In the seizure, only the department is the physical custody, but confiscation, they have the ownership. So, अगर सीज करने के बाद within 6 months they have not initiated, then goods has to be returned. So the notice is not issued within 6 months of its seizure. Goods shall be returned to the person whose confiscation it was seized. The 6 month can be extended by another period of 6 months. Certain specified category of the goods, such as menthol, saffron, petroleum product, cells, batteries, rechargeable battery, refill of ballpoint, etc. The provision of the Code of Criminal Procedure shall apply. However, one important point is in relation to 165.5, that instead of sending the copy of any record made in the course of search to the nearest magistrate, it will be sent to the principal commissioner or commissioner. Section 68, inspection, it is linked with the rule 138, that is e-way bill. Inspection can be carried out of a conveyance carrying consignment value exceeding a specified limit. And what is the specified limit? What is the specified limit in the rule 138 e-way bill? Please tell in the chat कि वो लिमिट कितनी है फॉर प्रिपरेशन ऑफ ई-वे बिल. Correct. 50,000. The person in charge of conveyance has to produce prescribed document. Document कौन सा हो गया? E-way bill, tax invoice, bill of supply, etc. Devices. What is the devices? That called as an RFID devices, radio frequency devices. And that devices again depends upon the commissioner who has made it applicable. The devices for the verification and allow the inspection. E-way bill has been prescribed inspection, so that is being separate chapter. Power to arrest. Now, again, important point, difference between arrest and to unprescribed. We will discuss. Okay. So they have taken this, I can say 132.1, clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D. Offense should be 4 category of the offense, and 132 subsection 2, that is repeat of the offense. Okay. So if it is first time offense, then it has to be classified in the ABCD, or if it is repeat offender, then it will be classified in 132. Again, that is being covered in the separate next chapter. I will not be taken this chapter only. So I'll just explain. 132.1 ABCD means issuing the fake invoice without actual supply of the goods. Second, that issuing the giving the goods but not issuing the invoice at all. Third, on the basis of the document, they are taking the ITC or fraudulently availing the ITC. So on that basis, the person can be arrested if the amount is more than 2 crore or more than 5 crore. ठीक है. However, the monetary limit shall not be applicable if the offense are committed again. So that is being given in 132. 132 के लिए कोई भी limit applicable नहीं है. What does it means? If it means if the person is issuing first time fake invoice or he is taking the fraudulent lie etc. If the amount is below specified limit, then he will not be arrested. Arrest का मतलब क्या होता है? How it is different from prosecution? The arrest means the person can be taken into the custody before trial also. But normal prosecution क्या होगा? It's jail. Arrest means it's jail only. And both are meaning jail, but timing of jail is different. Arrest means without being final outcome of the case, the person can be arrested and can be put behind the bar. And main reason because the amount is sizable, and therefore they are trying that this person should not affect the investigation and should not go somewhere by which the revenue will be under the trouble or the realization cannot happen. And prosecution क्या होगा, case होगा, finally judge etc. It will be heard and finally the amount will be decided, then it can be action can be taken against that person. So these are the two differences. So again, the four offenses, first time the amount should be 2 crore or more, and second repeat offenses, no limit applicable. Repeat offender. There are certain safeguards provided in section 69 for a person who is placed under arrest if the person is arrested for a cognizable and non-cognizable offense. Again, they have divided the concept in two parts: cognizable and non-cognizable offense, and bailable and non-bailable offense. Cognizable means serious are in where they are serious in the nature. So if the offense is cognizable, then they are non-bailable. And if the offense are less serious in the nature, that is non-cognizable, then they are bailable. Non-bailable does not mean the bail will never be granted. See, whether the offense are bailable or whether the offense are non-bailable, in both the cases, bail would be granted, but only in case of non-bailable, bail would be granted by the magistrate. And in case of bailable, the bail would be granted by the person who is arresting, by the officer who is arresting. This is the only difference, bailable or non-bailable. Cognizable offense means serious category. And let's read that if the person is arrested for cognizable offense, he must be informed in writing for the ground and he must be produced within 24 hours to the magistrate. If the person is arrested for non-cognizable and bailable offense, the deputy commissioner or assistant commissioner can release him on bail and he will be subject to same provision. All arrest must be in accordance with the CRPC. Section 132 also prescribes which type of offense are cognizable and non-bailable and which type of offense are non-cognizable and bailable. So again, uska classification is almost same. 132 A, B, C, D, and 132. These are cognizable normally, but you will able to understand more in the respective chapter. Okay. Non-cognizable means less serious in the nature, and cognizable and non-cognizable offense. 132 provide the offense relating to the taxable goods and services where the amount of the tax. So quantification यहाँ पर कितना है? More than 5 crore. That will be treated as cognizable and non-bailable. And precaution during arrest. The provision of CRPC relating to arrest and the procedure thereof must be adhered to all situation amounting to arrest. It is therefore necessary that all field officers of the CGST be fully familiar with the provision of the Code of the Criminal Procedures. One important provision to be taken care, Section 57, which provides that a person arrested without warrant shall not be obtained for a period of longer than, under the circumstances of the case, is reasonable, but it shall not exceed 24 hours, excluding the journey time from the place of arrest to the magistrate court. Within this period, the person making the arrest shall send the person so arrested without warrant before the magistrate. Guideline for arrest. The decision to arrest need to be taken on case-to-case basis, considering various factors such as nature, gravity, quantum, credit, wrongfully availed nature, possibility, etc. ठीक है. To ensure the proper investigation to prevent such person from absconding, mastermind or key operator affecting proxy, benami property, export in the name of the dummy or non-existent person, mastermind or key operator affecting the proxy, benami property where the intent to evade the duty is evident and element of mens rea, guilty mind is applicable, prevention of the possibility of tampering with evidence, intimidating or influencing witness, and large amount of the evasion of the tax. Power to summon. Section 70, and you practically will see the summon are being most frequently used in the GST. During the course of inquiry, the officer may issue summon or any person to appear before him and give evidence or produce document. The person to whom the such summon has been issued is the duty bound to appear before the officer and bound to tender evidence or give a statement or not. Asking for evidence or requiring to produce the document does not permit calling for entire set of the books of accounts. It is important to call for specific evidence or document. Recording the statement on oath is not the conclusion of investigation, but to further the investigation that the evidence or document obtained in summon proceeding will help in supporting charges against that person. A statement made in summon proceeding are inherently unreliable for the reason that the person may be anxious due to the nature of the proceeding. Such statements are also not free from doubt due to the relation between the person and recording the statement and the person on entity charged with offense. It is also important. Person who miss the statement may modify or even withdraw that statement made. Cannot be done without an inordinary delay. सी नॉर्मली क्या होता है जब भी कोई स्टेटमेंट समन होता है सो देयर इज ए ह्यूज पॉसिबिलिटी दैट माइट बी द person has given the statement under the pressure, under some hardship, because at the time of the shaman, see normally what happened, the practically in some cases it has been noticed that the person has been called under the summon and he is staying in the office so long, around 8, around 9, he has been called for discussion. So mental pressure, stress को increase करने का try किया जाता है so that he could be able to give the statement without any मतलब means I can say without any मतलब changes or any adjustment in the statement. But इसीलिए sometime the taxpayer after the summon they are immediately issuing the letter or immediately requesting the letter that whatever I given is not correct, is it has been given in the force or under undue advantage they have taken, under mental stress, etc. Responsibility of the summon. All persons are bound to attend either in person or by an authorized representative. Much important, because initially the authorized representative are not allowed to attend the summon. It has to be by the person who has been summoned. So normally what happens, they are issuing the summon in the name of the director. See, for example, XYZ Limited, a big corporate, okay, or is a PSU, and they are issuing the summon in the name of the director, and might be director are sitting outside, located outside India. How he can attend? So therefore, they are saying it has been added, it has been realized that it can be attended by the authorized representative also. Non-appearing consequence, again 122 section 3 subsection 3 clause D, you will find the penalty of 25,000 under each act. So total penalty would be up to 50,000. Guideline for summon, CBIC has issued the guideline from time to time. Summon had to be issued at last resort. Where the SSC are not cooperating, and the section code should not be used for summoning the top management. The language should be not harsh and it should be legally worded, and in such manner which not cause unnecessary mental stress. Summon by the superintendent should be issued after obtaining prior permission, and that to be written permission from the officer not below the rank of the assistant commissioner. Where for operational reason it is not possible to obtain such prior written permission, must be obtained and the same should be reduced in writing and intimated to the officer. Accordingly, such permission at the earliest opportunity. In all cases where summon is issued, officer issuing the summon should submit a report or should record a brief of the proceeding in case file and submit the same to the officer. Senior management officials such as CEO, CFO, general manager, large company, PSU should not generally be summoned at first instance. They should be summoned only when there are indication of the investigation in the decision-making process which lead to the loss of revenue. What is the precaution to be observed while issuing the summon? The following precaution should be generally observed when summon is being issued. Generally, should be issued appearance when it is not justified. Should not be issued for appearance when it is not justified. Normally, summon should not be issued repeatedly. The time of the appearance given in the summon should be respected, and no person should be made for long hours. See, try to understand why the CBIC in the guideline they have used this word, because practically might be happening before this statement is recorded, except when it has been decided very consciously as a matter of strategy. Preferably, statement should be recorded during office hour. However, an exception could be made regarding the time and place, will depend upon the fact. Access to the business premises. So, Section 71 says that officer duly authorized by the Joint Commissioner and officer higher in the rank can have the access to any business premises which may be required for the purpose of carrying out any audit, scrutiny, verification, and check as may be necessary. During the search, the officer can inspect the books, document, computer programs, software, and such other things as may be required. It is the duty of the person in charge of the premises to furnish the required document within 15 working days from the demand. Similarly, the person in charge of the business premises are also duty bound to furnish the document to the audit party deputed by the officer or chartered accountant or cost accountant in the special audit. In the last 10 minutes, we will do the quick round of the question answer for revising the entire 4th chapter. Okay? So that I'm skipping the officer to assist the proper officer. So they are saying that under section 72, the following officer have been empowered and are adequate and are required to assist the CGST officer in execution of the CGST Act. The category specified: police, railway, custom, officer of the state or UT, central government engaged in collection of GST, officer of the state or UT engaged in collection of land revenue, all village officer, and any other class of the officer as may be notified by the central government or state government. By this we have completed this chapter as well. तो अपने 3 चैप्टर हो गए. Now we will start the last chapter, very important chapter. That chapter is really important, I can say, because it is demand and recovery. And again, I can say that it deal with the section 74, 74A, 73, all these provisions. So again, let's take a small break of 10 minutes and we will resume, then start the chapter demand and recovery. Sir, असुख एक 10 मिनट का ब्रेक स्टार्ट recovery. ठीक है. Basically, so you have seen that if there is a scrutiny of returns and the reply which you have submitted, taxpayer has submitted, and they are not satisfactory, they can take any action, including the determination of the demand and recovery. And determination of tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded. Here, this entire, there are three main sections, 73, 74, and 74A. Okay. Now, in the three section, so I can say the 73 or 74, it is valid till one respective financial year, and after that, these both are being redundant. Only 74A will be in place. Point number one. So point number one, and there are five things which will be used in determination: either tax not paid, short paid, ITC wrongly availed or utilized, or erroneously refunded. So tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. If these five reasons are because of the non-fraud case, it will be governed by the 73. If it is because of the fraud case, then it will be governed by the 74, 73 or 74, and then for prospective financial, and both are being mixed in the 74A. Why it has been mixed that we will discuss. Okay. So now I think for your examination only 74A is applicable. ठीक है. So मैंने आपको डिफरेंस बता दिया. दोनों में क्या था, 73 में नॉन फ्रॉड केस थे, 74 में फ्रॉड केस थे, बट दोनों को मर्ज कर दिया 74 कैपिटल ए में. 74 stipulate the manner in which the tax liability should be determined in case of the short payment, non-payment, erroneously refunded, wrongly availment, or utilization of ITC. It provides a unified mechanism for both fraud and non-fraud case, where such short payment, non-payment, erroneously refund, wrong availment, utilization is by reason of the fraud or any willful misstatement or suppression. Limitation period. One of the core principles is that the legal proceeding must have the element of certainty. The law of the limitation built on this principle is any action under law must be taken within the prescribed time period. Otherwise, the dispute remain open-ended and it will be remain open for lifetime, right? The purpose of the limitation under the tax law is to fix a definite time period within which the authority can take action, such as demand, notice, assessment, etc. Okay. So, and again, principle of natural justice. In order to adhere the principle of natural justice, notice has to be issued, and personal hearing (PH), in short, we are calling as PH has to be given, asking the person chargeable with tax to show cause why the tax interest should not be recovered. Okay. 74A, show cause notice can be issued within 3.5 years, that is 42 months, from the date of furnishing the annual return or from the date of erroneous refund. टैक्स और आईटीसी का मैटर है, तो जिस साल से पर्टेन करता है उसके विद इन 42 मंथ में होना चाहिए. एंड अगर रिफंड का मैटर, तो जिस साल रिफंड लिया है, डेट ऑफ इरोनियस रिफंड, एंड फ्रॉम दैट ईयर इट विल बी 42 मंथ. The order must be passed within 1 year from the date of the so cause notice. So 42 months, 3.5 years, and 1 year, so maximum 4.5 years. Order. Incidents of the short payment, non-payment, erroneously refund, wrong availment, utilization may be because of inadvertent bona fide mistake, that is by reason of the other than fraud, willful misstatement or suppression, hereinafter as non-fraud case, or it may be a deliberate attempt to evade the tax, that is by reason of the fraud. Now, SCN is issued in any of the following case. 5 मीटर मैंने आपको बता दिया. SCN, so cause notice, by the person chargeable with the tax, why the tax not paid along with interest and the penalty under the provision of this GST law. SCN should clearly state the amount of tax, interest, and penalty that is liable to pay. Needless to say, notice must be clearly state the ground based on which demand is raised. Again, various time it has been seen that the notice which does not specify the exact reason are being quashed by the High Court. Because why you are raising the notice, why it is fraud case, why it is non-fraud case, something has to be clearly mentioned by which seeing the notice, the person to whom the notice has been issued is able to understand the reason, so that the person against whom is made aware about the SCN is to be both fraud, non-fraud exception up to 1,000 rupees. That is okay. No SCN shall be issued. Pre-SCN intimation, that is important point. The officer may, before service of the notice, communicate the details of any tax, interest, penalty as ascertained by him in the prescribed form to the person chargeable with the tax, interest, penalty. It is important to note that issuance of the pre-SCN is not mandatory. There is a concept of pre-consultation notice in the section 74. Earlier it was mandatory, then they have made optional. In the 73-74 I'm talking about. So before issuing the notice, if someone come forward, so they will issue the pre-consultation notice, and if taxpayer come forward and make the payment of tax interest, then there will be the lesser penalty in the fraud case. Where such person has made the partial payment, communicate to him or desire to file any submission against the proposed liability, he may make such submission and thereafter the proper officer may issue an intimation accepting the payment. Statement in lieu of the submission, SCN. So if the SOCO's notice has been issued for the any period, let's say for one financial year, and now the fact and everything is same, and they like to cover next financial year also, and then in that case they can avoid the SCN and only statement can be issued. Okay. Such statement shall be deemed to be the SOCO's notice. What is the time limit? We have discussed that time limit is 42 months for SCN, and that was the main reason to merge both the section. Why I am saying so? Because 73 is saying time limit is 2 year 9 month for SCN, and for order that was a 3 year. It is not important for your exam, but I'm just giving you for brief idea. Suppose some officer are not able to issue the notice 2 year 9 month, then they were using the 74, because 74 has a bigger time limit, 4.5 years. So they are using the 74. But if they not able to prove the fraud element in the notice, then by the subsequent authority or sometime by the High Court, the demand is quashed. So because the time limit is being expired, the demand is quashed. So now to give the bigger time limit and no differentiation between fraud and non-fraud, they have merged both. Okay. Quantum of the penalty. Fraud case, penalty of the tax from the person chargeable with tax 10% or 10,000. Fraud case में क्या है 100% of the tax. Non-fraud case में क्या है 10% of the tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. Just quick 1 minute. Allow me 1 minute. Issuance of the order. What is the time limit to issue the order? 12 months from the date of the issuance of the SOCO's notice. However, if the officer unable to issue the order within this time, commissioner not below the rank of the JC may extend this period for another period of 6 months. So what happened? Total 5 years they have taken. So what is the time? 3.5 years for the SOCO's notice, 1 year for the order. If they could not issue the order within 1 year, they can again take the extension of 6 months. So for that would be probably much easier for them. So the total time limit is 5 years. If before issuance of the SOCO's notice, if someone will make the payment, of tax and interest, then if it is a non-fraud case, no penalty. And if it is a fraud case, then 15% of the tax is the penalty. How the non-fraud case? In case of the non-fraud case, the person charged with the tax along with interest penalty under section 50 before the so cause notice on the basis of his own ascertainment of the tax or the tax as ascertained by the proper officer, and inform the officer in writing of such payment in the prescribed manner, DRC 03, and acknowledgement shall be made available to that person through the common portal electronically. The officer on receipt of such information shall not serve any so cause notice as the case may be in respect to the tax so paid or any penalty payable under the provision of the GST law. Fraud case. In case the fraud case, the person chargeable with the tax along with interest and penalty of 15%. Okay. And so in the GST law, you will have this word multiple times. Inform the proper officer. Inform the proper officer. What would be the communication in which you will inform? The form DRC 03. What is the DRC 03? In the DRC 03, you will pay the tax along with interest and penalty if applicable. You choose the section number also. And then this would be treated as intimation. It will not like a physical intimation where you are visiting the department physically and then intimating the same. No. Then it says that acknowledgements shall be made available through the common portal electronically. Officer on receipt of the information not serve any so cause notice where the amount fall short. So then in that case, to the shortfall of the amount, they will issue the notice. The option of paying the tax and interest and penalty before so cause notice as to avoid the issuance of the so cause notice is available in both fraud and non-fraud case. Payment of tax, interest and penalty within 60 days of issuance of the so cause notice. Non-fraud case. In case of the non-fraud, the person chargeable with the tax pay the tax along with interest within 60 days from the issuance of the so cause notice. Inform the officer, no penalty. See, try to understand. अगर मैटर नॉन फ्रॉड केस का है, then even after so cause notice and payment is made within 60 days, then again the waiver of the penalty would be available. No penalty. And if it is fraud case, then before notice it is 15%. After notice, it is 25%. Again, the time limit is 60 days. In such case, all proceeding in respect of said so cause notice shall be deemed to be concluded. The officer shall issue the intimation. Correct? Payment of tax, interest, penalty within 60 days of the communication of order. करेक्ट. यहाँ पेनल्टी का परसेंटेज कितना था? 25. अब पेनल्टी का परसेंटेज कितना हो जाएगा? 50. Payment of tax, interest, penalty. In case of the fraud case, the person chargeable with the tax as may along with the interest under section 50 and the penalty equal to the 50% of the tax within 60 days of the communication of the order, and all proceeding in respect of the said SCN shall be deemed to be concluded. तो कितना पेनल्टी हो गया? सो एक बार क्लियर कर दीजिए फॉर बेटरमेंट, फॉर क्लैरिटी. इफ बिफोर सो कॉज नोटिस, if taxpayer pay the tax interest, then how much is the penalty for non-fraud case? How much is the penalty for non-fraud case before SCN? Just I request everyone to give the response so that we all are clear. Before so cause notice, kitna penalty? No penalty. If it is a fraud case, then before SCN, ready to make the penalty, ready to make the tax, interest, then what is the penalty amount? Yes, right, 15%. Now we are coming to after SCN, pay the tax, interest. Then if it is a non-fraud case, then what is the penalty? After SCN, before order, what is the penalty? Again, no penalty. But if it is a fraud case, then अगर वो फ्रॉड वाला है तो 25%. And after the order, if it is non-fraud, then 10% or 10,000, whichever is higher. 10%, 10,000 to 10%, whichever is there, we will discuss. This part we will discuss. Only last point, please confirm. In case of notice has been issued, but taxpayer has to make the payment of penalty within how many days so that he can take the advantage of lesser percentage. कितना दिन में पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा? Within how many days he has to make the payment to take the advantage of that particular lesser percentage of the penalty? Answer is 60 days. Absolutely correct. ठीक है, अब हम बात करते हैं ये वाला payment of tax interest penalty within 60 days from the order. In case the fraud case, the person chargeable with the tax along with interest and penalty equal to 50% within 60 days, then again it will be deemed to be withdrawn. Penalty in case of non-payment or amount collected as tax within 30 days. In case of the non-fraud case, if the amount of self-assessed tax or any amount collected as tax has not been paid within a period of 30 days from the due date, the penalty will be 10,000 or 10% of the tax, whichever is higher. This provision is notwithstanding anything contained in the clause 1, clause 2 of 74A subsection 8. In other words, in such case, imposition of penalty is mandatory with no option of waiver. In case of the non-payment of self-assessed tax and the amount collected representing the tax, the only opportunity for paying the same without penalty is 30 days from the due date. The option to pay such tax before issuance of so-called notice or within 30 days from SCN and avoid the penalty consequence is not available. Penalty shall be payable where an amount of self-assessed tax or any amount collected as tax has not been paid within a period of 30 days from the due date of the payment. For the purpose of 74A, all proceeding in respect of said notice shall not include 132. 132 क्या चीज का था? वो प्रोसिक्यूशन से रिलेटेड था, राइट, जहां पर जेल होने की पॉसिबिलिटी और वो सब, जहां पे वो बहुत सारे एलिमेंट है. तो अगर कोई मैटर कंक्लूड हो जाता है, विच इज all proceeding in respect of said notice is deemed to be concluded, ये लिखा है कि काफी जगह देखा था हमने, all proceeding in respect of said notice shall be deemed to be concluded, all proceeding shall be deemed to be concluded, correct? So it will not include section 132. It can be separately standalone valid, where the notice under the same proceeding is issued to the main person liable to pay the tax and such proceeding against the main person have been concluded. तो जो नोटिस इशू किया था मेन पर्सन एंड सम अदर पर्सन, दो पर्सन दोनों के अगेंस्ट में या मोर देन दो, मतलब एक तो जो मेन पर्सन था लेट्स से कंपनी और कंपनी के डायरेक्टर, तो कंपनी को नोटिस इशू किया, साथ में डायरेक्टर को नोटिस इशू किया फॉर द सेम प्रोसीडिंग. एंड अगर कंपनी make the payment and the matter is being concluded in 74A, the proceeding against all the person liable to pay the penalty in these two sections are deemed to be concluded. Example भी दिया, sometime if the notice is issued to the company, notice may also be issued to the director, employee, transporter for the same cause of action. There are the term co-notice, while company is the main notice. Conclusion of the proceeding against the main notice would be deemed to be the conclusion of the proceeding against the co-notice. For the purpose of this act, the suppression shall mean non-declaration of the fact or information which a taxable person required to declare in the written statement, report, or any other document furnished under this act. So this will be called as suppression. Okay. Definition of the suppression is very clear, that only if the information that was required to be disclosed under the GST law is not disclosed, that would tantamount to be suppression. It is not the duty of the taxable person disclose each material fact to the department if it is not asked for. ये क्लियर है, कोई डाउट नहीं है इसमें. जनरल प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू द डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ टैक्स 75. 74A तो कंप्लीट हो गया, अब 75 है. क्या है 75? जनरल प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू द डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ टैक्स. period of the stay to be excluded in computing the limitation period. जहां पे suppose notice या order का issue करना stay है by the court या appellate tribunal, then this time period will be excluded. The person chargeable with the fraud when any appellate authority, appellate tribunal or the court conclude that the penalty for fraud case is not sustainable for the reason that the charge of the fraud has not been established, then the penalty prescribed for the non-fraud case shall be payable by that person. Adjudication order in pursuance to the appellate authority, appellate tribunal, court direction to be issued within 2 years. So, whatever the time limit is there, but in addition to that, अगर कोई डायरेक्शन है कोर्ट का, ट्रिब्यूनल का या अपीलेट अथॉरिटी का, तो उसके केस में ऑर्डर 2 साल के अंदर अंदर इश्यू करना पड़ेगा. दिस इज ए फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल that opportunity of the being heard should always be given. जब भी कोई adverse decision, any adverse decision is contemplated, ठीक है. Adjournment of hearing to grant time to person chargeable with the tax. The officer, if sufficient cause is shown by the person chargeable with the tax, grant the time to the said person, adjourn the hearing. However, such adjournment shall be granted for maximum 3 times. So again, you can take the adjournment, but maximum 3 times. Adjudication order should be speaking order. ठीक है. The tax, interest and penalty demanded is order is not to exceed the amount specified in the notice. So the amount of the tax, interest, penalty demanded in the order shall not be in excess of the amount specified in the notice, and no demand shall be confirmed on the ground other than ground. See, very important point. Notice में जो ground है ना, उस ground से beyond run नहीं कर सकता हमारा order. अगर कोई ऑर्डर ने ऑफिसर ने ऑर्डर इश्यू किया बाय टेकिंग एडिशनल ग्राउंड व्हिच वाज नॉट देयर इन द नोटिस, देन दैट ऑर्डर विल बी null and void to that extent. In case of the modification of the tax by the authority tribunal, then interest would automatically modify. So liability increase or decrease हो जाती है because of any reason, then accordingly the interest would also be reduced. Correspondingly, impact would be given to the interest. Payment of interest is mandatory even if it is not specified in adjudication order. Sometimes the interest is not being mentioned because it is not sure when you will pay. Okay. In that case, can we say that interest is not payable? No, we can't say. It is payable. Adjudication order to be passed mandatorily within the stipulated time. So that we have talked about that it should be issued within 1 year. In case appeal filed by the department against the prejudicial decision of the authority or tribunal or high court, period between the date of the decision by the high court, by the higher authority and that of the lower authority will be excluded. An issue on which appellate authority or tribunal or high court has given its decision which is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue in some other proceeding, and an appeal to the appellate tribunal or the high court or the supreme court against that decision is pending. The period spent between the date of the decision by the appellate authority and that of the appellate tribunal, or date of the decision of the appellate tribunal and that of the high court. तो उन दोनों अथॉरिटी के बीच में जो भी टाइम लिया विल बी एक्सक्लूडेड इन द कंप्यूट इन द टाइम लिमिट फॉर पासिंग द एडजुडिकेशन ऑर्डर. ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. अमाउंट ऑफ सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स और इंटरेस्ट रिमेन अनपेड टू बी रिकवर्ड अंडर सेक्शन 79. अब क्या मीनिंग है सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स का? एंड नाउ प्लीज सी what is the meaning. If there is a self assessed tax, it is overriding the section 73, 74, 74A. What does it mean? It means if there is a demand of self-assessed tax, there is no requirement to issue the notice. There is no requirement to follow the timeline. It means it is open-ended. Then any amount of the self-assessed tax in accordance with the return filed under section 13 and remain unpaid, either wholly or partly, or any amount of interest payable or such tax remain unpaid, the same shall be directly recovered under the provision of 79. The expression self-assessed tax shall include the tax payable in respect of the detail furnished in the GSTR1 but not included in the 3B. मतलब R1 and 3B का जो भी गैप है it is self-assessed tax and can be recovered without issuing any notice. Okay, that is okay. However, the difference mismatch 1 3B may arise due to the genuine reason also. Typographical error, okay, where the supply could not be declared, but he has paid the same in 3B. Therefore, instruction number 1 has been issued, provided that in case of the mismatch between R1 and 3B, the officer may first send a communication to the registered person, pay the self-assessed tax. A recovery proceeding will be initiated by the officer only when the said person either failed to reply or failed to make the payment or failed to explain. Okay. In case of the penalty being imposed under 73, 74 or 74A, no other penalty to be imposed for the same act or omission. This concept is called as double jeopardy. What is the meaning of double jeopardy? कि अगर एक ऑफेंस के लिए if the penalty is being covered under 73, 74, 74A, तो वापस penalty impose नहीं होगी on any other section. For example, there was tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded. Notice has been issued in 74A. Also, it has been issued in 125 or 122. The two notice for the same Act 2 penalty will not survive. Tax collected but not deposited. The provision of these sections are based on the principle that nobody should be unjustified enriched in the name of the revenue. Correct? Amount represented as tax collected from any person to be paid to the central government. अगर कोई भी amount collect किया है, it has to be paid to the central government. Issue of the notice, the amount is required to be paid to the government. The proper officer may serve the person liable to pay the amount in notice, requiring him to show cause as to why the said amount should not be paid to the government. Determination of the amount due. After representation, if any made by the person to whom the SN is served, determine the amount due from the person and thereupon shall pay the amount. Interest payable, the person who collected any amount as tax but not deposited the same to the government. So might be you have seen in the some hotels, what they are doing, they are showing as service tax, service charge, something like that. Or some composition dealer are issuing that tax invoice by charging the tax. और सम exempt supply के ऊपर भी जीएसटी चार्ज होता है. Now this, if something has been represented as tax but not being paid to the government, it will be recoverable. Interest pay करना पड़ेगा. Opportunity being had will always be given. Time limit is or 1 year from the date of the notice. Where the note order is stay by any court, tribunal, the period of the stay shall be excluded. Speaking order होना चाहिए. Adjustment of the amount payable in 76(1) and 3, 76(9), 10 and 11. Amount paid to the government shall be adjusted against the tax payable by the person in relation to the supply. Where any surplus is left, the amount of the surplus will be either credited to the consumer welfare fund or refunded to the person who actually borne the incidents. 77, we have discussed something. Can you please tell me any 1 or 2 point which you like to say? I have just kept the headline in front of you. Tell me, tax wrongly collected and paid to the central government or state government. कोई एक दो point आप recall कर सकते हैं, because in the previous classes we have already covered this chapter. So no interest is charged on it. CGST paid as IGST or reverse refund is available for it. No tax interest penalty on these. No interest. Correct. 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 Very nice, Geeta. So if I have paid the tax wrongly by treating as intrastate, तो मैंने C और S पे किया है, CGST and SGST पे किया है, but subsequently it was as IGST. Then it says that I will pay the correct tax, that IGST, and will take the refund of wrong taxes, that is CGST and SGST. Time limit of 2 years of the refund, which we have discussed in that chapter, refund chapter, will be from the date of payment of correct tax. ठीक है, and no interest would be payable. So there was a word with subsequently held. Then if someone identify himself and pay the correct tax, take the refund of wrong tax, then sometime it is observed that refund is not being issued because of this word. Because subsequently held according to that officer means it is only identified by the department. Then they have clarified this matter. This word subsequently held means it can be identified by the taxpayer himself or by the tax officer in any proceeding. Both instances are being covered. Sorry. Both instances are being covered. Then recovery under section 78 and 79. Just give me a minute. एक मिनट दीजिएगा खाली. So recovery proceeding, intimation of the recovery proceeding, an amount payable by the taxable person in pursuance of an order passed under this act must be paid within a period of 3 months from the date of the note order. If a taxable person failed to do so, the recovery proceeding are initiated against him. You know why the 3 month has been given? Can you tell me why 3 month has been given? Any idea? Because the time limit of 3 months has been given to file the appeal. Any order issued to a taxpayer, any person, he has the right within 3 months he can file the appeal. So therefore, there will be no recovery within 3 months in the normal case. But again, the proviso was there. He consider it expedient in the interest of the revenue for reason to be recorded in writing. So in that case, he has to give the reason in writing. Why is recovering within 3 months. So recovery of the taxes, there are various modes given for recovery of taxes. Recovery by deduction from any money owned. See, the proper officer may deduct or may require other specified officer the deduct amount so payable from any money owing to that person referred as defaulter. So defaulter का money मान लो किसी officer के पास में refund application है, ठीक है. So he can request him to adjust that money. A specified officer means any officer of the central government, state government, or union territory, local authority, or of a board or corporation, etc. Recovery by sale of the goods under the control of the proper officer. So अगर उसके कंट्रोल में कोई गुड्स है तो he can, अगर उसके कंट्रोल में कोई गुड्स है तो he can dispose of that goods. The officer may recover or may require any other specified officer to recover the amount so payable from a defaulter by detaining and selling any goods. The officer shall prepare an inventory and estimate the market value. So much of the goods cell which is required to recover the amount, where the defaulter pays the amount under recovery, including any expense. Before the notice for auction, the officer will cancel. Garnishee proceeding. Recovery from third person. थर्ड पर्सन कैसे? मान लो डिफॉल्टर पर्सन है, उसकी कोई जमीन है, he has given the same on rent to Mr. A. Now Mr. A is tenant. He is paying the rent, but now in this case 79 giving the permission that this recovery can be made from Mr. A. They will issue the notice to Mr. A. Then Mr. A can give the reply in case if the money is not due at all, not payable to actually defaulter. He can request the commissioner. Otherwise, that notice issued to Mr. A will be the valid notice. The officer may, by notice in writing, that from whom money is due may become due to that person, or who may subsequently hold money or on account of the person to pay to the government, either forthwith upon the money becoming due or being held within the time specified in the notice. So much of the money as is sufficient to pay the amount due when it is a notice. Where such notice is issued to the post office, bank, insurance, it shall not be necessary to produce the passbook, deposit receipt, policy, or any other document. In case the person to whom the notice is issued fail to make the payment, he shall be deemed to be the defaulter. अब Mr. A भी defaulter बन जाएगा. Further, such payment being credited to the government shall be deemed to constitute the good and sufficient discharge of the liability of the person to the person in the default to the extent of the amount specified in the notice. तो अब जब उसने पे कर दिया तो ये पेमेंट प्रॉपर माना जाएगा फॉर टू ट्रांजेक्शन. एक, by tenant to the landlord, he has discharged the duty. Second, landlord to the government, he has discharged the duty. Defaulter जितना भी liability to that extent जितना tenant ने पेमेंट किया है. Any person discharging any liability in defaulter after servicing of the notice shall be personally liable to the government to the extent of the liability discharge or to the extent of the liability of the person in default, whichever is lower. Where a person on whom the notice is served hereunder prove the satisfaction of the officer issuing the notice that the money demanded was not due to the defaulter, he did not hold any money. अगर ये प्रूव कर देते हैं, then nothing contained in this section shall be deemed to require the person to whom the notice has been served, that in our example Mr. A or part thereof, तो वो money recoverable नहीं होगी. Where the third person make the payment of the amount specified in the notice, the officer shall issue the certificate in prescribed form to third person, clearly indicating the details of the liability so discharged. Recovery by sale of movable or immovable property. The officer may, in accordance with the rules to be made in this behalf, distrain any movable or immovable property belonging to or under the control of the person and detain the same until the amount payable is paid, and in case any part of the said amount payable or the cost of the distress or keeping of the property remain unpaid for a period of 30 days next after any such distress may cause the said property to be sold. 30 दिन तक वेट करेंगे, उसके बाद प्रॉपर्टी सेल कर सकते हैं. तब ऑफिसर से प्रिपेयर द लिस्ट ऑफ द मूवेबल इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी. अगर इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी है, ऑर्डर शैल बी अफिक्स्ड ऑन द प्रॉपर्टी टिल द कंफर्मेशन ऑफ द सेल. और अगर मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी है, शैल सीज द प्रॉपर्टी एंड टेक इनटू द कस्टडी. Stamp duty, any other tax, fee payable on the transfer of such property shall be paid by the transferee to the government. Any property in the debt not secured by a negotiable instrument, a share in the corporation, or other movable property not in the possession of defaulter, except for the property deposited or in the custody of court, shall be attached. Where any claim is preferred, any objection is raised with regard to the attachment distraint by a person claiming that he has some interest, possession of that property in question before, proper officers shall investigate the same and postpone the sale till such time. If the officer find merit in the claim or objection upon investigation, officer will release the property. हाँ, ये वाला अच्छा है. Amount so realized from the sale from a defaulter or for the recovery of the penalty under 129(3) जो EV bill का penalty है. First, it will be appropriated against the administrative cost. Next will be appropriated against the penalty under 129(3). Next will be penalty from next amount will be adjusted from the defaulter under the tax. The balance shall be credited to the cash ledger जो कि excess होता है to the owner of the goods or conveyance as the case may be. Where it is not possible to pay the balance of sale proceed to the person concerned within a period of 6 months from the date of the sale, as the officer may allow such balance of sale proceeds shall be deposited to the consumer welfare certificate specifying the amount due and send it to the collector in which such person own any property or reside or carry the business. Recovery as fine imposed by the magistrate, recovery through execution of decree, ठीक है, recovery through surety, recovery from company in liquidation. When the company is under liquidation, as specified in section 88, the commissioner shall notify the liquidator for recovery the amount of representing the tax, interest, penalty, or any other amount due in the prescribed manner. Other provision governing the recovery of the tax, where the terms of any bond or other instrument executed under this act or the rules or regulation made thereunder provide that any amount due under such instrument may be recovered in the manner laid down in subsection 1. Amount may, without prejudice to any other mode of recovery, be recovered in accordance with the provision 79(2). Okay. So this we can leave. Clarification on the legal position of voluntary payment of tax during the course of inspection. During the course of search, seizure, inspection, or investigation, clarification on the legal provision, voluntary payment of tax during the inspection of search, seizure, investigation. Sometimes the taxpayer opt to deposit their partial or full liability arising after voluntarily deposit have at least used the. See now what happened. Normally, it has been observed by the department by the CBIC that force measure is being taken to say that you have to pay the amount, otherwise I will not leave the building. The legal position of the voluntary payment of the tax has been clarified for ensuring the correct application of law. Under the GST, the taxpayer have an option to make the voluntary payment. Such voluntary payment before notice will lead to lesser amount of the penalty. This helps the taxpayer for delayed payment may also have the save him from the higher penalty. The recovery of the tax not paid or short paid can be made under the provision 79 only after following the due legal process, that is notice, adjudication, order, etc. Therefore, there may not arise any situation where recovery has to be made by the officer during the course of such only. However, the law does not bar the taxpayer from voluntarily making the payment. That is okay. Section 80, payment of tax in installment. Now, in this case, if the wait, what is the maximum installment available? 24 installment. ठीक है. If any one installment is being defaulted, entire outstanding amount become due immediately. And installment option is not available for self-assessed tax. A taxable person seeking extension of the time for payment of tax or any other amount due under this act for allowing the payment of tax or amount in installment shall furnish an application. तो सबसे पहले application file करनी पड़ेगी. Commissioner shall call for a report from the jurisdictional officer. Upon consideration of the same, the reason to be recorded in writing, extend the time for payment or allow the payment of any amount due other than the self-assessed tax in return. Can you tell me that what is the one example? Can you tell me what will be considered as self-assessed? We have talked about difference in some return. We know that if something has been declared in the GSTR 3B, it cannot remain unpaid. So that point is not correct कि 3B में declare किया pay नहीं किया. But in which return it has been declared, and difference between these two return will be considered as self-assessed tax liability. Answer is GSTR1 and GSTR3. ठीक है. However, where there is a default in payment of any one is that we have discussed. Facility of the payment in installment is not allowed if taxable person has already defaulted in payment of any amount for which recovery is on. The taxable person has not been allowed to make the payment in installment in the preceding financial year. उसने request किया था but deny हो गया. Amount for which the request is being asked, that is less than 25,000. Correct. Where a person, 81, transfer of the property to be void in certain cases, where a person after any amount has become due from him create a charge or part with the property belonging to him or in possession by way of the sale, mortgage, or any other mode of the transport uh, with the intention for defrauding the government, it become void. Tax to be first charged on the property, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in the law for the timing in force, save as otherwise provided in IBC. Any amount payable by a taxable person or any other person on account of the tax interest penalty which he is liable to pay to the government shall be the first charge on the property of the taxable person. Provisional attachment to protect the revenue. See, they have covered this chapter. The commissioner's opinion that the interest of the government revenue, then they can attach the bank account to recover the outstanding liability. Now, the point is protecting that is necessary by writing attached provisionally any property including bank account belonging to the taxable person in 122 1A in such manner as may be prescribed. Now, this attachment will have to be ceased effect after the expiry of the 1 year. So they can only attach. It's not that they can recover. Attach means they will attach and you cannot do the transaction further. Provisional attachment, where the commissioner will see whether recovery can be made or not, that we have already discussed. Where the commissioner decide to attach any property including bank account, he shall pass an order. Commissioner send the copy of the attachment to the concerned revenue authority or transport authority or any such authority to place movable which shall be removed. On the written instruction from the commissioner or expiry of the period of the 1 year from the date of the order, whichever is earlier. ठीक है. तो जब तक वो इंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं आता तब तक उसका अटैचमेंट रिमूव नहीं हो जाएगा. या ये वाला प्रोविजन अभी ऐड किया है. इट वाज नॉट इनिशियली सिंस बिगिनिंग. व्हाई दे हैव एडेड? बिकॉज द लॉ सेज दैट 1 ईयर का टाइम जैसे एक्सपायर होता ना तो वो अटैचमेंट का जो ऑर्डर है वो इनइफेक्टिव हो जाता है. So in that case, correspondingly, they're saying they are saying that attachment would be removed by the revenue authority, transport authority, or by the bank. जैसे वो 1 ईयर का टाइम लिमिट एक्सपायर होगा, ऑटोमेटिकली वो अटैचमेंट ओपन हो जाएगा. Copy of the order of the provisional attachment of the property, including bank, shall also be sent to the person whose property is being attached. Where the property is attached is perishable or hazardous, then and the taxable person pay the amount equal to the market price or the amount that is or may become payable, whichever is lower, then such property shall be released. However, when the taxable person fail to pay the amount, then property will be disposed of. Okay. Attachment of the debt and share. A debt not secured by the negotiable instrument is share in the corporation or the movable property not in the possession of the defaulter except for the property deposited shall be attached in the writing order. Attachment of the property in custody of the court or public officer, attachment of interest in partnership. I'm just doing completion of continuation and validation of certain recovery proceeding where any notice in respect of tax, interest penalty or any other amount payable under this act is served upon any taxable person. Okay. And an appeal is initiated in respect of that government dues then. Where such government dues are enhanced in such appeal, revision or other proceeding, commissioner shall serve upon the taxable person another notice of the demand in respect of the amount by which the government due are enhanced. as are covered by the noticing before the disposal of the without the service of the fresh notice be continued from the stage at which stood immediately before the disposal. Where such government dues are reduced, then it shall not be necessary to issue the fresh notice. Commissioner shall give the intimation of reduction to the appropriate authority, and recovery proceeding initiated on the basis of the demand upon him prior to the disposal of that appeal may be continued in relation to the reduced amount. Okay. Proceeding conducted under IBC covered under the term other proceeding in section 84. The word other proceeding is not defined in the GST. It is to be mentioned that adjudicating authority and appellate authority under IBC are quasi-judicial authority constituted to deal with the civil dispute pertaining to insolvency and bankruptcy. For instances, under IBC, NCLT serve as adjudicating authority for insolvency proceeding, which are initiated on application from any stakeholder of the entity like the firm, creditor, debtor, employee, and pass the order approving the resolution plan. As the proceeding conducted under IBC also adjudicated the government dues pending under CGST or under IGST under existing law, and against the corporate debtor, the same appear to be recovered under the term other proceeding in 84. That has been clarified by section 84 and circular 187. ठीक है, तो by this we have completed our fourth chapter. Last 10 minutes, let me ask some question based on all the four chapter that we have done today. Start करें? Shall we start? Give me 1 minute and let me see if there is any amendment is there. Monetary limit. So 74A, board has assigned the officer below mentioned table the function as the proper officer to issue the so-called notice in 74A. 20 तो मॉनेटरी लिमिट जो 74 मॉनेटरी लिमिट फॉर सीजीएसटी सुपरिटेंडेंट कितने तक का ऑर्डर पास कर सकते हैं 10 लाख तक का इफ इट इज सीजीएसटी एंड इफ इट इज आईजीएसटी देन 20 लाख डिप्टी कमिश्नर असिस्टेंट कमिश्नर अबाउट 10 लाख बट नॉट एक्सीडिंग 1 crore and additionally joint commissioner about 10 crore without any limit. Circular 254 dated 27th October 2000. That's it. That's it. So this is the only one clarification that is under the statutory updates. ठीक है. So अब हम start करते हैं अपने chapter one by one. तो रिवीजन आज 4 चैप्टर हमने पढ़े. सबसे पहला क्या था जॉब वर्कर का. तो टेल मी द जॉब वर्क के लिए जो प्रिंसिपल है शुड इट बी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन और शुड इट बी एनी पर्सन. प्रिंसिपल रजिस्टर्ड होना जरूरी है या कोई भी पर्सन चलेगा? The answer is it should be registered person only. It should be registered person only, right? And what is the time limit to bring back the input given to the job worker, and what is the time limit to bring back the capital goods given to the job worker? Time limit क्या है? One year and 3 year, which can be extended by another period. How much? इसको कितने टाइम पीरियड तक एक्सटेंड किया जा सकता है? 1 year for input, 3 year for capital goods. Absolutely correct. इसको कितना टाइम और एक्सटेंड किया जा सकता है कमिश्नर के अप्रूवल से? 1 year and 2 more year. And if the goods does not come back or capital goods does not come back within this time period, then it will be treated as, then अगर वो वापस नहीं आता तो क्या दिक्कत है? What will be the problem? It will be treated as deemed supply by the principal. ठीक है? And do he need to pay the interest? Do he need to pay the interest? The answer is yes. See, in the power to arrest, what is the difference between arrest and prosecution? डिफरेंस क्या है अरेस्ट में और जो नॉर्मल जो हम कहते हैं कि प्रोसिक्यूशन हुआ? सो अरेस्ट कैन बी मेड विदाउट ट्रायल ऑल्सो. ठीक है. So can you know that arrest can be made if the amount of the default exceed how much? अगर डिफॉल्ट जो किया है उसका अमाउंट कितने से एक्सीड करेगा, देन अरेस्ट कैन बी मेड. इट इज 2 crore. एंड व्हाट इज द, there are 4 offense which has been specified in 132 subsection 1. Can you give me any one example कि कौन से offense covered है अरेस्ट के लिए? कौन से offense covered है अरेस्ट के लिए? Correct. Supply without notice, without invoice, or only invoice, no supply, fake ITC, etc. ठीक है. Next question is on from the assessment. Assessment के केस में, assessment के केस में क्या क्वेश्चन था? See, provisional assessment can be on the request of the taxpayer. दो ground थे. See, taxpayer can request to the officer that please do the assessment. There are 2 ground which are available in the provisional assessment. वो कौन से ground थे? There were 2 ground कि he is not able to do this much and he is not able to do this. Therefore, he is requesting provisional assessment. Value and the rate. He is unable to determine the rate. He is unable to decide the value. ठीक है. So the which audit are there currently by the chartered accountant or cost accountant? Which audit is available by the chartered accountant or cost accountant in the GST law? That is called a special audit. That is called a special audit. Right? And which audit will be done by the department? Which audit will be done by the department? Departmental audit. Now you tell me one thing, that one provision we have discussed that regarding the I have explained the late fees versus fee. I was explaining one point in the assessment chapter, late fees versus fee. So I know that late fees would be payable whenever I'm filing the return after the due date. But when the fee would be payable, fee कब pay होगा? When the fee would be payable? The fee would be payable in case if the return has not been furnished within 60 days as per the assessment order under section 62. 62 में assessment order issue हो चुका है and you have not filed the return within 60 days, then another period of 60 more days would be available by which you can file the return, but you have to pay the fee. This will be over and above the late fees. Correct? So again, the 3 slab, if it is a fraud case, then before so cause notice, 100 rupees per fees. Before so cause notice, कितना percentage है penalty का? Before SCN fraud case में कितना penalty का percentage है? 15. After SCN within how many days? After SCN within how many days? The penalty would be reduced to, कितने दिन में अगर पेमेंट कर दिया तो penalty would be reduced to, how much is the penalty? How much is the penalty after order? Absolutely correct, 50% within 60 days. और अगर 60 days भी expire हो गया, then 100% penalty. Then 100% penalty. Correct. What is the time limit to issue the notice under section? What is the time limit to issue the notice under section 74 capital A? What is the time limit to issue the notice under section 74 capital A? It is 42 months. 3.5 years. Order, and what is the time limit to issue the order? What is the time limit to issue the order? 1 year from the notice. And last again, sorry, if the order is not issued, then can it be extended by the commissioner? Can it be extended by the commissioner? Answer is yes, it can be extended by another period of maximum 6 months. Which which type of the tax can be recovered ignoring the 73, 74, 74A? Which type of the tax can be recovered even beyond the 73, 74, 74A का time limit? Answer is self-assessed tax. And self-assessed tax can be recovered. ठीक है. Tax collected but not deposited within how many days? Then penalty would be attracted. और इस टाइप की पेनल्टी के लिए क्या चीज अवेलेबल नहीं है? रिलैक्सेशंस अवेलेबल नहीं है. जो टैक्स आपने कलेक्ट किया और गवर्नमेंट को पे नहीं किया, then the problem is that there will be no relaxation. ठीक है. By this we have completed the all the four chapter. Now next classes would be taken by some another faculties. I think Vishal sir. So from my side, this is over. Any question you have? In Geeta, I request that kindly share that particular example which you are doing, having the rate of interest is 18%. ठीक है. वो मुझे
Yes, sir.
example. हाँ.
Yes, sir. It is there in the module also in current 2020
कौन सा chapter का
assessment
नाम
and
बताया?
audit. In that last question is there, test your knowledge. I have seen it.
I'll check and I'll check. ठीक है. ठीक है. Thank you so much. And any other place where this is available?
No, sir. I have done that question.
Fine. No problem. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Goodbye to all of you. अशोक जी मेरी तरफ से कंप्लीट आज की क्लास.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.